When it comes to greatness in the NBA, we often talk about wins, MVPs, championships, and iconic moments. But sometimes, what separates a good franchise from a great one isn't just talent on the floor, it's culture behind the scenes. And no one just shed more light on that than former Warriors big man DeMarcus Cousins. In a recent appearance on FanDuel TV, Cousins peeled back the curtain on what it's really like inside the Golden State Warriors organization. Forget just basketball, he spoke about a level of care, detail, and investment that very few franchises can match. One story in particular caught everyone's attention. During the playoffs, the Warriors provide a separate plane just for players' families. Not a shared charter, not a side arrangement, a dedicated flight. That's elite treatment. That's family. Being a guy that was a part of the organization, Cousins said, I can agree with Jimmy Butler 100%. It's definitely one of the top organizations in the NBA. They treat their players well, they treat players' families well. From meal plans on the road to traveling, during the playoffs, they have their own separate plane just for players' family members. Not many organizations are doing that. Let that sink in. While most teams focus solely on logistics and performance, the Warriors go above and beyond to create a true family environment. That's the kind of culture that makes stars want to stay. That's the kind of commitment that makes legends out of players and legends out of teams. This matters more than people think. In the era of player empowerment and short-term contracts, franchises that foster belonging and loyalty have a massive edge. Just ask Jimmy Butler, who, since arriving in the Bay, has done more than just fit in. He's thrived. And according to Cousins, that's no accident. The Warriors rolled out the red carpet for him. They want him to feel welcome. They want him to feel like he's part of the family. And it makes sense. You want to make this relationship work. You want your investment to work. Everybody's playing their part. And so far, that investment is paying off. In just his first season with the Dubs, Jimmy Butler made a real difference, averaging 17.9 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 5.9 assists on nearly 48% shooting. But more than that, he elevated the team's defense to an elite level. With Butler on the floor, the Warriors had the best defensive rating in the league. That's not a coincidence. That's impact. Golden State went 23-7 with Butler in the lineup. In the first round of the playoffs, they knocked off the rising Houston Rockets in a 7-game battle. Then came heartbreak. Stephen Curry injured his ankle in Game 1 of the second round, and the Warriors were eliminated by the Minnesota Timberwolves. But even in disappointment, there was hope. Because now the core, Curry, Butler, Draymond, is healthy. They've had a full offseason to build chemistry, and they're backed by the kind of front office that prioritizes both performance and well-being. This is why the Warriors are still dangerous. This is why even after all these years, they're still contenders. Not just because of stats and trophies, but because of who they are as a franchise. And now it's your turn, Dub Nation. What do you think makes the Warriors organization so special? Was Cousins right to say the treatment is unmatched? Does this kind of player-first culture help attract stars like Jimmy Butler and possibly others in the future? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Because behind every championship run is a culture built on trust, family, and belief. And if the Warriors are going to make one more push for glory, it will be built on exactly that foundation. Stay tuned, because Chapter 2 dives into the ripple effects of this culture and how it's affecting key decisions like Kuminga's future and Draymond Green's leadership.
While the Golden State Warriors continue to uphold a culture of excellence off the court, a different kind of tension brews within their roster, one that could define their long-term trajectory: the standoff with Jonathan Kuminga. On paper, Kuminga is everything a modern NBA team should want: explosive athleticism, untapped scoring potential, strong defensive upside, and just 22 years old. But here's the twist. Despite averaging 15.3 points, 4.6 rebounds, and 2.2 assists last season, Kuminga has struggled to secure consistent minutes in Steve Kerr's notation, especially when it matters most. His benching during the playoffs left fans and analysts scratching their heads. Now, his future with the team hangs in the balance. Recently, NBA insider Britt Siegel reported that the Warriors did offer Kuminga a contract in the ballpark of $30 million per year before the 2024-25 season. A show of faith? Perhaps. But according to Siegel, that offer is no longer on the table. Golden State has now pivoted, reportedly seeking to re-sign him for closer to $20 million per year. But in a dramatic twist, Kuminga's agent Aaron Turner publicly denied that any such $30 million offer was ever turned down. "No one on our side was turning down $30 million a year. Our camp is smarter than that," Turner posted on X. "Narrative makes no sense." Whether the truth lies in the Warriors' court or Kuminga's, one fact is clear. This situation is getting messier by the day. And at the heart of it all is Steve Kerr's coaching philosophy. Kendrick Perkins, never shy about sharing strong opinions, recently lit up Kerr for his handling of young talent. Appearing on Road Trippin' with Richard Jefferson and Allie Clifton, Perkins didn't hold back. Steve Kerr, in my opinion, has a hard time letting young guys be great. The only player I've seen him wrap his arms around is Podziemski. And let's be real, Pods is going to be a role player. But when it comes to a guy who has franchise potential, Kerr holds them back. Strong words, but they echo what many Warriors fans have been thinking since the days of James Wiseman. Despite high expectations and lottery pick status, Wiseman never found his footing in Golden State and was eventually traded. Now, with Kuminga, the franchise risks repeating history. To be fair, Kerr has a system that relies heavily on veteran IQ, ball movement, and disciplined defense. It's not easy for young players to thrive immediately in that kind of setup. But when your roster skews older, Curry, Butler, Green, Horford, and your window is closing fast, can you really afford to alienate one of your only high-upside young stars? This brings us to a crossroads. On one side, the win-now urgency, trying to squeeze out one last championship run with a battle-tested core. On the other, the need to develop the next generation, to give players like Kuminga the confidence and opportunity to grow. It's not an easy balance to strike, but it's one that great organizations must figure out. And if you ask Warriors fans, they're split. Some argue that Kuminga hasn't done enough to earn a bigger role, citing inconsistency and defensive lapses. Others believe Kerr's lack of trust is stifling his growth. The truth likely lies somewhere in between, but time is running out for a resolution. So now we ask you, Dub Nation, should the Warriors double down on their young talent like Kuminga? Or should they move him and lean entirely into the veteran model built around Curry, Butler, and Draymond? Is Steve Kerr holding back future stars, or simply sticking to the system that's brought 4 championships? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's get the real conversation going. Because what happens next with Kuminga won't just shape this offseason, it could shape the Warriors' next era. Stick around, because in Chapter 3, we'll dive into the latest on De'Anthony Melton's possible return and why his comeback could help reconnect the locker room and restore some of that championship chemistry.
In the middle of uncertainty, one name has quietly emerged as a stabilizing force for the Warriors: De'Anthony Melton. While he may not have the star power of Stephen Curry or the veteran pedigree of Al Horford, Melton represents something equally valuable: continuity, chemistry, and character. And now, after injury setbacks and a short stint away from the Bay, he could be returning to Golden State. According to Brian Windhurst, the Warriors are reportedly close to finalizing a deal with Melton, who was previously part of the roster during the 2024-25 season. Though his time on the court was limited, just 6 games before a partially torn ACL cut his season short, his impact was felt immediately. In those appearances, Melton averaged 10.3 points, 3.3 rebounds, 2.8 assists, and 1.2 steals, all in just over 20 minutes per game. But the stat sheet only tells half the story. His true contribution was intangibles: defensive hustle, locker room energy, and unselfish play. He brought versatility to the backcourt, able to guard both guard spots, stretch the floor, and run offensive sets when needed. In short, he was the kind of glue guy every contender needs. It's no wonder Draymond Green spoke so highly of him. What he was bringing to this team was great, so we'll miss that. But what we'll miss more is just his presence around, his attitude, his demeanor every single day. Always smiling, never upset about anything, just always bringing great vibes. Coming from Draymond, a guy who doesn't hand out praise lightly, that means something. And that's why Melton's expected return has been met with enthusiasm inside the Warriors' locker room. At just 27 years old, he still has plenty of runway left in his career. Fully recovered from ACL surgery, he brings a much-needed dose of defensive energy and offensive flexibility to a team that will need every edge possible to survive the ultra-competitive Western Conference. But make no mistake, Melton's possible comeback isn't just about on-court production. It's about culture. Golden State prides itself on being a player-first organization, a reputation recently reinforced by DeMarcus Cousins, who revealed on FanDuel TV that the Warriors provide a separate airplane for players' families during the playoffs. That kind of commitment builds trust, and trust builds champions. And that's where Melton fits in so well. He's respected by veterans, embraced by young players, and trusted by the coaching staff. If the Warriors do bring him back, as Windhurst suggests, they're not just adding a role player, they're restoring a positive dynamic that was missed after his departure. Let's also not forget how injuries derailed last season's title hopes. When Stephen Curry went down in the second round against the Timberwolves, the offense stalled. A healthy Melton could have taken some of that pressure off, facilitating, spacing the floor, and providing defense when needed. His absence was more costly than some fans realized. Looking ahead, a bench unit that features Melton, Podziemski, and possibly a returning Al Horford would provide Steve Kerr with lineups that can defend, shoot, and play smart basketball. That's the Warriors' identity. That's how they've won in the past, and that's what they'll need to compete in the West again. So now, we want to hear from Dub Nation. Do you believe bringing back De'Anthony Melton is the right move? Should the Warriors focus more on chemistry and culture than chasing flashy names? Is this the kind of signing that quietly wins championships? Drop your thoughts in the comments. This offseason may not have been flashy, but it could end up being one of the most strategic in recent memory if these pieces fall into place. And remember, this is the Warriors Nation News, where the real fans speak up.